Well, it's Monday, February 9th, 2026. I'm Brittany Noble, and here's what's coming up on The Breakdown. A new ruling has rejected Democrats' plea to open early voting sites on 3 public North Carolina universities. That includes North Carolina A&T. Economist Dr. Finnie will join us today to break down Black unemployment trends, job growth, and what the latest research means for workers. Menopause is hitting Black women harder, and many are not getting the care they need. Dr. Myiesha Taylor breaks down the disparities, the stages, and what women can do to take their power back. The breakdown starts right now. Well, a federal judge has denied a request to open early voting sites at 3 North Carolina universities ahead of the state's primary. U.S. District Judge William Osteen rejected a lawsuit from the College Democrats of North Carolina and 4 voters who argued the decision violates the U.S. Constitution. The ruling impacts Western Carolina University, UNC Greensboro, and North Carolina A&T State University, the nation's largest historically Black university. As a result, students will be required to travel off campus to vote. In court filings, Judge Osteen says opening new sites so close to early voting could cause confusion. Early in-person voting for the March 3rd primary begins on Thursday. An elections-related bill known as the Save America Act is now underway in Congress. The legislation that has already been introduced in the House of Representatives and was referred to committee late last month. The bill would require documentation showing an individual was born in the United States in order to register to vote in federal elections. If passed, the Save America Act would amend the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, adding a proof of citizenship requirement for federal voter registration. The House has passed earlier versions of the Save America Act twice, but it has not advanced in the Senate. Well, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has banned 12 public universities from using state or federal funds for diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI programs. And students at Florida's HBCU say the impact is already being felt. A senior law student at Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University in Tallahassee, Aaliyah Stewart, says the restrictions are directly affecting student organizations on campus, including the Black Law Students Association, as they work to promote and host Black History Month events. According to Stewart, certain words like Black, affirmative action, and women were all flagged by the university.
So it was Black was one of them, affirmative action I heard about, and then women as well. Just don't want us to be censored this way. I mean, not being able to use the word Black, women, it's very frustrating. We're just trying to promote, the core mission statement that our school has is to promote diversity and inclusion for everybody.
In a statement, the university released a statement saying Florida A&M University has consistently been in full compliance with Senate Bill 266 and Board of Governors Regulation 9.016. We support and have implemented the policy direction established by the governor, the legislator, and the Board of Governors as it relates to DEI and consistent with related federal court rulings. Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University is committed to fostering a campus community that encourages the free exchange of ideas while ensuring an environment of mutual respect, safety, and awareness. The university recognizes that freedom of expression is fundamental to academic inquiry, personal development, and civic engagement. Maryland Governor Wes Moore is speaking out after being uninvited to this year's National Governors Association bipartisan dinner at the White House. The meeting will take place February 19th through the 21st. The winter conference typically brings governors from all 50 states together. President Donald Trump announced on Friday that this year's NGA weekend will include only Republican governors. Moore is a Democrat and the only Black governor in the United States.
From your perspective, why are you being excluded from this dinner?
Well, I've long learned that I'm not trying to get inside over the president's psyche. It's not a good use of my time. It's not lost to me that I'm the only black governor in this country, and I find that to be particularly painful, considering the fact that the president is trying to exclude me from an organization that not only are my peers have asked me to help to lead, but then also a place where I know I belong in. And so I've long learned, and I've talked to the people and the children of my state, is that I'm never in a room because of someone's benevolence nor kindness. I'm not in a room because of a social experiment. I'm in the room because I belong there, and the room was incomplete until I got there.
You're saying that he's excluding you because of the color of your skin?
Well, I don't know. I can't speak to the president's intent. It's not lost to me, but I can't speak to the president's intent.
Well, the National Park Service returned the brochures to the Medgar and Myrlie Evers Home National Monument that identified his murderer as a racist. In 1963, Beckwith shot the civil rights leader in the back on the driveway of the Evers family home in Jackson. It would take more than 31 years before a Mississippi jury would convict Beckwith. The Park Service told Mississippi Today that they had pulled the brochures in anticipation of replacing them with a new version, which would remove the word racist to describe the killer, Byron de la Beckwith, according to Park Service officials. In a statement, Representative Maxine Waters posted this message on X: the removal of the brochure that honors Medgar Evers and the identification of the racist, Byron de la Beckwith, who killed him, is but another attempt by racist Trump to deny the history of Black people in this country. It adds to his pattern of erasing the history and the contributions of Black people from the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture and other Smithsonian museums, other federal buildings and websites, and the National Park Service. Trump, you are not fit to run this country, and no matter your dirty deeds, we are going to fight you. We are going to win. In Houston, Jack Yates High School is celebrating 100 years. Located in the city's 3rd ward near Texas Southern University, Yates serves students in grades 9 through 12 and is known for its strong athletic programs as well as magnet programs. The public school was established in 1926 and named after Reverend John Henry Jack Yates, a freedman, minister, and community leader who fought for the creation of an African-American cemetery. Yates has a long list of notable alumni, including Roland Martin, the curator of the Black Star Network, Hollywood performers Debbie Allen and Felicia Rashad, former NFL players Johnny Bailey, Harold Bailey, and Santana Dotson, to name a few. Texas state representatives Garnett Coleman and Judson Robinson Jr. That's the first African-American ever elected to the Houston City Council. Also, George Floyd is a member of the class of 1993. Well, even though the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, the biggest moment of the night was a halftime show featuring Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny. He was joined by Lady Gaga, along with Jessica Alba, Karol G, Cardi B, and Pedro Pascal. Ricky Martin also made a special appearance during that performance. Bad Bunny was born Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, spoke in English only once during the performance when he said, "God bless America." And for the second time in 4 years, about 1/3 of the NFL entered the offseason with head coach vacancies. And despite the fact that roughly 70% of NFL players are Black, no Black head coaches were hired during this cycle. So far, 9 of the 10 open positions have already been filled, with the Las Vegas Raiders expected to finalize a deal with Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak now that the Super Bowl is over. But as of now, there are only 3 Black head coaches in the NFL: Todd Bowles of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, DeMeco Ryans, the Houston Texans, and Aaron Glenn of the New York Jets. That number is just one more than 2002, the season before the league implemented the Rooney Rule, which requires teams to hold in-person interviews with at least 2 external head coaches, candidates who are minorities and or women. Well, coming up on the breakdown, federal workforce cuts, financial shifts, and historic unemployment lows are hitting the Black community hard. We'll discuss a Joint Center study and how we can overcome this economic downturn. And it's the 100th anniversary of Black History Month, so We will be highlighting Black history facts in every segment of the show today. We'll see you after the break.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
I'm Risa Colbert, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
Well, for millions of Americans, the reality still feels like inflation is winning and wages just are not keeping up. Here to discuss the Joint Center's 2025 analysis of Black unemployment trends and what the data reveals is economist and professor Dr. Smith Finnie. Welcome to the breakdown.
Thank you so much for having me. Very happy to be here.
Oh, good. Thank you. Well, the Joint Center analyzes unemployment data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. What are the biggest takeaways from this jobs report?
Yeah, our analysis of the 2025 unemployment data shows persistent disparities and that Black workers are experiencing more harm than other racial groups. Since 2022, the Black unemployment rate has typically been in the 5 to 6% range, but in 2025, the Black unemployment rate reached over 8%. That's the highest in 4 years. Comparatively, the unemployment rate for all workers in 2025 stayed consistent in the 4% range, and the highest was 4.5. The highest unemployment rate for Black women was 8%. For Black men, it was 8.4%. And for young Black workers aged 16 to 24, the highest unemployment rate in 2025 was 20.8%. And those were all figures from November 2025. And so that 8.2 Black unemployment rate was the highest monthly unemployment rate of any racial group during any month of the year. So we haven't consistently seen these high unemployment numbers like this since 2020 and 2021. So we're really talking about two different economies here. So as the headlines are highlighting what is happening in the economy, I'd also pose the question, for whom, right? Because the data shows that the labor market is very unstable for Black workers. And I love these conversations to share that holistic perspectives of the economy and also highlight these disparities.
And talk about the inequities that Black workers are facing when entering and re-entering the workforce.
Yeah, so thinking about some impacts that have impacted that unemployment rate, specifically for last year, we're considering the federal hiring freezes. Nearly 20% of all federal workers are Black. So those federal hiring freezes and also eliminations, reductions of the workforce really impacted the labor market. Again, thinking of 2025 and the different policy changes that were made, the rollbacks of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies and affirmative action policies have and will continue to have a grave impact to Black workers' opportunities and also those outcomes in the labor market. As we're changing the workforce due to technology, again, there's a lot of jobs at risk of automation, and thinking about the upskilling and reskilling opportunities, again, without those DEI and targeted outreach, and then other opportunities for upskilling, we consider who's going to be in the workforce and how are Black workers able to upskill, again, in this divisive environment that we're in. But also, we also have to acknowledge the declining job gains and also just very slow job growth of last year. From April to December of 2025, monthly job gains steadily decline. And those total job gains in 2025 were the weakest since 2020. So those are just some factors that we know had a grave impact. And some of those policy levers aren't changing. And the political environment seems to not be changing as well, which continues to impact the labor market, but also what opportunities are available for Black workers.
Do you think it's important for Black workers to be prioritized to maybe combat this high unemployment rate?
Yes, looking at the data and the grave disparities, there is no other option but to have targeted solutions to directly impact the conditions and the economic opportunities that Black workers have, right? I think we only have to expand those options just because of the experiences, but also looking at the data, Black workers are being harmed. And I think we should have some direct impacts to improve that unemployment rate, but also just economic outcomes as a whole.
Let's take a closer look at the data. How much of the story is about wages just not keeping up with the cost of living?
Well, we know inflation definitely is a big impact factor of not just the economic outcomes, but the economic conditions, even if you have a job, right? So I don't think it is disconnected at all. I think we need more data to show how that is integrally impacting Black workers specifically. But I can say without any data, it's definitely not making it easier for Black people to survive even with a job or even just have consistent economic stability, even with a job, or as they transition in and out of the workforce. That inflation and the cost of living, again, is very impactful, and it threatens economic security as well.
What has this report shown you about Black employment and the racial wealth gap?
Yeah, I think we have to pay attention. I think the data is very alarming. And I think as we're seeing that data that happened in 1 year alone, we're looking forward to what policy levers we can continue to advocate for. So that data looks much different even this year. The job report is going to be coming out on Wednesday. So we're looking forward to seeing what the conditions are going to start to be, but also as we consider to be strategic about what policy solutions that we need to propose to make sure that Black workers are going to be doing much better at the end of the year or even the middle of the year. We cannot go back.
If we're looking for jobs, what industries are driving the job growth right now?
Absolutely. Technology, as I mentioned, thinking about the emerging jobs that will come on top of that. AI is definitely going to be a big impact factor on what jobs continue to exist. So I definitely think anything revolving in technology is definitely going to continue to be in demand. So I do think those opportunities that are specific to the tech industries could be significant and could continue to have more opportunities for jobs as well.
I mean, I get it. We keep hearing about layoffs in tech and corporate restructuring, yet companies are still posting major profits. Can you explain the disconnect?
I think there's a lot happening, so I can't point to just one thing. But I think we're starting to see a little bit of a skills mismatch, right? There's a lot of opportunities maybe on the rise, but there's not a lot of people that have those same competencies that make them excel in some of those industries or the skills that some of the employers are looking for. So I think we just have to bridge that disconnect. But it's conversations like these that continue to have us look at what's going on and continue to investigate how it is the landscape is continuing to change over the years as well.
How would you say this jobs report might affect what the Federal Reserve might do next with the interest rates?
Yeah, so in January, they held still with not cutting any of the interest rates. I think as we're looking at the all workers unemployment rate, again, as it considerably is in the fours, I think the new jobs day data on Wednesday may give us a better picture of what they're going to do next. But I do hope they continue to examine holistically what the labor market looks like and who's being the most impacted, which is Black workers.
If you had to forecast based on what we're seeing today, what kind of year will this year shape up to be for the average worker?
I think I'm hopeful as I continue to hope. And I think looking at the data, I am hopeful but cautiously aware of what it looks like to continue to widen these disparities if no policy change happens. So I'm hopeful for more policy change, and we'll continue to examine that labor market outcomes each month as we do at the Joint Center.
I want to get your thoughts about this. For people watching who are trying to make decisions, whether they're switching jobs, maybe negotiating pay, do you have any advice for them right now?
I think my only advice would definitely be consider the labor market conditions. I think holistically, as you're looking at different salary ranges, employment, I think you have to look at the data to continue to set yourself up for success in those new opportunities. So I think I would definitely say pay attention to the data and how the labor market is continuing to do, but also stay up to date on what the salary ranges are so that you can continue to advocate for yourself.
Well, Dr. Finnie, thank you so much. A wealth of knowledge you have. We appreciate you for bringing that information onto the breakdown today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Coming up next, we will check in with Dr. Myiesha Taylor right after the break. Stay with us. Plus, have you come across a national news story that deserves national attention? We definitely want to hear from you. Please go online to our website, Black Star Network, and submit your questions. We'll be right back.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
What's happening? This is your man, Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching the Black Star Network.
Well, in the Noble Spotlight today, we have Dr. Myiesha Taylor. She's a board-certified emergency medicine physician, integrative and functional medicine expert based in North Texas. She has more than 20 years of clinical experience. Dr. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us on The Breakdown.
Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit more about your background and what led you into medicine.
Absolutely. Well, like you said, I'm an emergency medicine physician by training, but honestly, as I've navigated life as a Black woman who has to seek healthcare within our healthcare system with all of its attributes and deficits, I decided to expand my scope and go into integrative medicine. And integrative medicine is a type of medicine that kind of looks at the whole picture. So we zoom out and take a more holistic view as we look at how the systems within our body interact with each other and try to address the system rather than an emergency setting when everything falls apart, or in silos with highly specialized, medicine.
And I saw that you recently wrote an article, Menopause Hits Black Women Harder. Let's get them the help they need, in the Star Telegram. Can you tell us a little bit about what led you to write that?
Yes, as a woman who is navigating midlife, as a patient, as a Black woman, but also as a physician, I have a lot of conversations with a lot of women, particularly Black women, friends, sorority sisters, Jack and Jill moms, right? And basically the story is the same. We are not being told all of the information to make informed decisions. And a lot of that could be, there's just not enough time at the doctor's visits, right? 10, 15 minutes is not enough time. A lot of it stems from the Women's Health Initiative, where it was a study about 20 years ago that basically publicized the problems that they determined were caused by estrogen that has since been reevaluated, but it's a long shadow. So really, hormone replacement therapy, menopause care is just a deficit. And now that Gen X, young boomers and millennials are entering this stage with our technology and our platforms, We're kind of using it for good. So me among them, trying to use it for good and help amplify this message of self-care. Ultimate self-care is trying to live long and expand your health span so that you live healthy and not just get old and dysfunctional towards the end of your life.
Yeah. So why would you say that Black women are suffering more with menopause?
Yeah, that's a great question. Black women, particularly American Black women, we have higher allostatic loads, which means that we carry pressures and racism and injury and trauma from generations past. So that manifests, right? Epigenetics is the way that a species can evolve and survive. Well, our ancestors and the trauma that they've been through is actually reflected in our physiology. So that's at baseline. But then we continue to live in systems that are filled with implicit bias, systems that are built on structures of racism. And we have to navigate that, right? So that is going to be a barrier. Then just in society in general, right? We have more sleep disruption, we have higher inflammatory burden, we have higher cardiometabolic risk. We are not necessarily able to address any emotional and mental health issues that we may need just because of the way society is structured. So menopause is like one of the ultimate physiologic stress tests. And what that means is everything that you were able to compensate for when you get into menopause and the estrogen starts to decline, your margin of reserve shrinks, which means that now a lot of things that you were able to keep under wraps, like autoimmune disease, maybe mental health stability, sleep architecture, all of that begins to unravel.
And so why do Black women, would you say, we're entering menopause a little bit earlier than whites?
We are. So that's also, we tend to experience symptoms that are more profound, and studies have connected symptom expression to risk, right? Cardiometabolic risk, blood pressure, insulin resistance risk, obesity risk. So those risks that are a result then manifest as disease, right? Normal menopause can begin at age 45. Average age is about 51 in our country. Perimenopause is the time leading up to the final menstrual period, can start normally 7 to 10 years prior to that final menstrual period, which means that at age 35, it could be completely normal for a woman to be in perimenopause. And so often they are dismissed. If a woman is 37 years old and she's having hot flashes and goes to the doctor, more times than not, she's going to be told that she's too young, or hormones or labs look normal, but she's still having these perimenopause and her health is suffering as a result.
Could you break down the stages of menopause?
Yeah, so, I think that there are stages that are documented, but I think that the important thing to remember for patients, it's going to be, you're going to look for changes in your menstrual cycle. So sometimes they're subtle. So it's not always you get your period regular, and then maybe they spread apart and then they fall off. Usually, actually, they kind of come closer together because the second part of your period shrinks. So that's like stage 1. And you may not notice it. You have a 28-day period or a 30-day period, and now it's 27 days or 26. Very subtle. But then you may notice that the flow changes. So maybe it's a little bit more clotting, or maybe it's a little bit longer. Those are usually the first stages, right? Other stages that we have by definition will tend to center on laboratory data, FSH going up, those sorts of labs, but you won't know that as you navigate the journey. But your doctor, your healthcare provider can check it. The problem though with checking hormones, and I want to make this point, is hormones can change 4-fold, 5-fold, 100% in just one day. So depending on the time of day you check it and where you are in your cycle, you could look normal. And the conclusion drawn is you need nothing, you're fine. But if you look at the trend, it's trending down. It's just erratic. So when you catch it at a particular point, you can't make a lot of it. But to me, that's not a reason not to check it. I find that my patients really enjoy having data because the data allows you to make more informed decisions and watch your physiology over time. So when you watch it over time, you can make a decision about when to start HRT or whether to start HRT or what type of HRT to start, right? And then there's other markers in menopause that are often ignored as we focus on hormones, right? There's lipids that we should check and inflammatory markers that should be checked. Insulin should be checked along with your hemoglobin A1C and blood sugars, right? Because if you have an insulin that's very high, your sugar may look normal, but it's taking your body a lot of insulin to keep that sugar normal. Well, we want to identify that when it's high insulin before the sugar changes so that we can intervene then, right? So I want to also make the point that this is a systems, a holistic and integrative picture that we're looking at. It's not just OB-GYN, for instance. It's not just looking at your uterus, not just looking at your breast. It's looking at your brain. It's looking at your mood. It's looking at your metabolism. It's looking at your weight. It's looking at your skin, your hair, your bones, right? It's a whole systems integrated approach that should be taken.
And while we have your attention, doctor, any treatment options that we should be aware of?
Absolutely. You know, I think that always at the foundation of any conversation should be menopause hormonal therapy or hormone replacement therapy. It's referred to as both things. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you should do it. It means that somebody should talk to you about it. Its virtues, its limitations, its risks, right? In addition to that, though, you also need to consider inflammation, right? You know, what takes most of us out is cardiovascular disease. Estrogen helps protect our blood vessels and our hearts, but also decreasing inflammation helps. Making sure the lipids that you have, the cholesterol that you have, not just the number, but how are they behaving, right? Your inflammatory markers, there's other markers that we can check so that we can modify your diet, right? GLP-1s may have a role and their role is expanding. Even if you're not looking to lose weight, they may serve a role in inflammation. They may serve a role in metabolic health. So a lot of these are very nuanced conversations that are not cookie cutter. There's a lot of supplements that could be helpful depending on where you are in the journey and what your biology is like, right? You know, again, just helping with those foundational pillars of inflammation. That's our number one thing, and that's our number one killer at its core is inflammation. So if we can adjudicate the level and then mitigate the risk, I think that is really the underlying approach to all care, but particularly when you lose resiliency in midlife.
All right, Dr. Taylor, I cannot let you go before you tell me about your meaningful connection to the cultural legacy of Disney's Doc McStuffins.
Yes. So Disney, you know, I love that they allowed this show to exist, right? A lot of hands were lifting up this project. And what it is, it's, you know, a little Black girl who is an American story. So she could be any color or any gender, and she aspires to be a physician. So what we were able to do as Black physicians is show the world that we exist and we are Doc McStuffins. And that is so important because we often rightfully attribute its value to representation in little Black girls, particularly, but Black kids can see themselves in the role. But let me tell you what's not often discussed. Everybody sees us in the role, right? So I'm an ER doctor as well. So if I'm in the ER and I have to convince people that I am the team leader, I'm the only doctor in the hospital, right? So anytime anything is happening, if I have to go through and get the nurses and the patients and the staff to understand that I'm the doctor, patients are dying. And it's not just Black patients, right? Because most of the patients are not going to be Black. It's a diversity of patients. Whereas now with shows like Doc McStuffins, kids, generations grow up and they see that we exist. So now it takes a little less time, still takes time, but a little less time to say, I'm Dr. Taylor. And people say, okay, what are we doing, Dr. Taylor?
Dr. Myiesha Taylor, thank you so much for joining us on The Breakdown. And we look forward to having you again on the show soon.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We have so much more news coming up on the other side of this break. You are watching The Breakdown.
Hey y'all. Welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Rhea Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory, attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
Hi, I'm Swing Cash, Basketball Hall of Famer, and you're watching Black Star Network.
Well, if you missed it on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Roland discussed the racist video that President Donald Trump posted on his Truth Social account. The video featured former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama using dehumanizing imagery that has long been associated with white supremacy. Roland also shared responses from politicians, Democrats, and Republicans regarding this blatantly racist post.
Immediate backlash across the political landscape. Okay? So Deadline.com asked the White House for a response. This is what Carolyn Leavitt, the chief White House liar, said in response to this video. This is from an internet meme video depicting President Trump as the king of the jungle and Democrats as characters for the Lion King. Please stop the fake outrage and report on something today that actually matters to the American public. Well, here's the problem. There are no monkeys in the Lion King. All of a sudden, folks responding. Maryland Governor Wes Moore. The president's post on Truth Social goes beyond a dog whistle. It is blatant racism, relying on imagery that has long been used to demean and dehumanize Black people. But this moment is about more than a single post. The words our leaders choose matter. The images they invoke matter. It shapes how we see one another and the kind of country we are deciding to be. Leadership is about bringing people together, not tearing each apart. Republican Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi said, "This is totally unacceptable. The president should take it down and apologize." Now, it went on and on and on. Now, of course, that MAGA leprechaun comedian Terrence Williams, he put out fake news alert. Trump didn't post this monkey video of the Obamas lying Democrats. It's not on his page. Fake screenshot. No, Terrence, you're a liar. And that's exactly what you do. You lie over and over and over again. And so you lied about this here. Now, a black MAGA supporter, international singer Mary Milliman, she actually posted this. The president's Truth Social post of former President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama is the most racist and offensive post I've ever seen. It is completely beneath the American presidency and most importantly, is opposite of the spirit of God. It is rather the spirit of Jim Crow. POTUS, Black America is America. Take it down and do better. South Carolina Republican Tim Scott posted this. He said it's the most. He said first of all, he said, "I hope this is fake." He said, "But this is the most racist thing." He said, "This is what he said: praying it was fake because it's the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House. The president should remove it." Now remember what I said. The White House initially defended it, but then all of a sudden, about around noon, they took it down. Now, according to several social media outlets, Senator Tim Scott called Trump. Trump talked to him, and then after their call, he said that they took it down and say, "Oh, they blamed a White House staffer." Now, we always known who he was. Remember when he said Obama wasn't born here in America, and then he kept pushing that lie? Now, remember when he also ran the first time, 2015? Remember when Lindsey Graham actually had some balls? When he actually had some guts? When he wasn't kissing Trump's ass? This is what South Carolina Republican Lindsey Graham actually said about the racist Donald Trump in 2015.
I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you like this guy. I think what you like about him, he appears to be strong when the rest of us are weak. He's a very successful businessman, and he's going to make everything great. He's going to take all the problems of the world and put them in a box and make your life better. That's what he's selling. Here's what you're buying. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for. I've been in the Air Force for 33 years. I retired this June. He's the ISIL Man of the Year, by the way. He just got back from Iraq a week ago this Monday.
I know. We interviewed you live from there. You were with Senator John McCain, and you were going into Iraq to get a status report. What were they saying there about all of this?
The military leadership and the diplomatic corps. Now, we have young men and women in harm's way all over the world, particularly in the Mideast. They were concerned about this rhetoric because the enemy will use it against us. So what was a concern last week has to be DEFCON 4 this week. Because what Mr. Trump is doing, and I don't think he has a clue about anything, he's just trying to get his numbers up and get the biggest reaction he can. He's putting our soldiers and diplomats at risk. He's empowering the enemy. And this ban, if it's actually enacted, would take people who have been interpreters, who came to our side in Iraq and Afghanistan, who are under siege in their own countries, and basically becomes a death sentence for them.
Now, that's when Lindsey Graham wasn't an ass kisser. He's a total ass kisser right now. This is Republican Senator John Curtis of Nebraska. The post was blatantly racist and inexcusable. It should never have been posted or left published for so long. Again, this is a Republican here. This is Republican Mike Turner, who's running for the U.S. Senate in Michigan. I do not feel the need to respond to every inflammatory statement made by the White House. Right there, that says a whole lot. However, the release of racist images of former President Barack and First Lady Michelle Obama is offensive, heartbreaking, and unacceptable. President Trump should apologize. So he goes further. He's saying don't just delete, he should apologize. Now, for a long time, let's see here, Black Republicans in Congress, other than Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, they posted, oh, he called the White House and was told it was a staffer, and that was it. No statement, no nothing. Coward. Wesley Hunt, Congressman from Texas, nothing. Coward. For the longest, Burgess Owens, former NFL player, congressman from Utah, didn't say anything. An hour ago, he finally tweeted, I'm aware of the Truth Social post that circulated earlier. The imagery was wildly offensive and inappropriate. And as a black man, I find it especially troubling. It never should have been shared or even created. And I'm glad it has been taken down. Reports indicate it may have been posted in error by a staff member, but regardless, we all have a responsibility to use care and good judgment with the content we produce and distribute. But we know who this racist is. We know exactly who he is. And so Donald Trump showed us exactly who he has always been. So let me see right here, because yesterday you had the National Prayer Breakfast, and you got so-called Christian leader Franklin Graham. Let me this it? Come on, go my iPad. 8 hours ago, all he tweeted was, the Bible teaches that life does not end at the cemetery. There's a future life with God for those who put their trust in his son, Jesus Christ, quoting his dad. Yep. Franklin Graham, he ain't said a damn thing. That ain't no shock. Let's see Trump's other White House sycophant, Paula White Kane. Let's see here. Let's see. All she says is, don't allow the enemy to plant seeds of doubt in your mind or uproot anything that contradicts what God says about you. That was 4 minutes ago. Nothing else. She got some other thing, some revival, her and her husband. That's it. You can't declare negative things over yourself and expect to live a positive. Nothing right there. Let's see. Nothing right there. Let's see. Nothing right there. And that, that's it. Yeah, hey, nothing Paula White. Not a damn thing. She ain't said nothing at all. I'm gonna look up in a second. Hold on. Let's see what the help Vernon Jones. Let's see if he said anything. He kissed more MAGA ass than Melania. So let's see Vernon Jones, he probably let's see. His Twitter feed, nothing. He talking about. Come on, guys. Can you please switch? Thank you. Go my 8 hours ago, nothing. So yeah, Vern ain't said nothing. So that's no shock right there. I could pull up a whole bunch of other these Negroes, these MAGA Negroes ain't said nothing. Dinesh D'Souza, Indian American, he actually laughed it off. Let me show you what this fool said. This fool actually said, let's see here. In context, this is both amusing and harmless. We're not in the mood to fall for another race hoax from the left. Well, Dinesh, if it's a race hoax, why did they admit that it was posted by, and it was a fault of a White House staffer? See, this is what happens when you kiss so much MAGA ass. You defend their bullshit, and even when they did it, you look like a damn fool.
Well, coming up tonight on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Roland will talk about the MAGA backlash to Bad Bunny's Super Bowl performance. And coming up after the break, we'll introduce you to one woman who survived war. Her story ahead.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Hey
y'all. Welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Well, the Sierra Leone Civil War began in 1991. It lasted more than a decade, ending in 2002. It was one of the most brutal conflicts in modern African history, and much of it was driven by the fights over diamonds. But behind the term is something we often forget: children, families, and communities living in constant terror. Our next guest lived through the war, and now she is sharing her story with a powerful new book. Finnie, Samura, thank you so much for joining us on The Breakdown.
Thank you so much, Brittany, for the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. For those who may not know you yet, tell us a little bit about who you are and why you decided to share your story now.
Sure. My name is Finnie K. Samura from West Africa, Sierra Leone. I was born there, and like Brittany said, I survived a civil war in Sierra Leone for more than 12 years. And by the grace of God, I was able to come to the United States and to seek refuge here as a refugee, coming here as a teenager. And I'm currently here in the United States. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I'm an author, a minister of the gospel as well. And I'm grateful to be here to share my story. The reason why I decided to share my story is because right now we're living in the world where there's so much confusion going around and rumors of war, and just seeing all the violence that is happening across different nations and countries. It breaks my heart. Like the host rightfully said, war is not only affecting those who are fighting among themselves or whatever the intentions are that they are fighting for, but it also affects the citizens, and most importantly, the children. They suffer the most. So that's the reason why I decided to share my story at this time, so others can hear this and start praying for the nations or whatever country you're in that you feel like your country might be at the verge of war. Just pray for God's intervention, because war is not a good thing, and I don't wish that on my worst enemy.
I know it may be difficult to talk about, but can you take us back to 1991? Like, what did war look like for you and your family?
Well, as a little girl growing up in Africa, in Sierra Leone specifically, we started hearing rumors about rebels attacking nearby villages, and we saw people running from one village to another village, from one town to another, just escaping the atrocities that was happening there. And we didn't really take it seriously because we just thought, okay, it's just another day, another drama. But then when it started coming closer and closer to the cities, the bigger cities, and we started hearing gunshots, I clearly remember the time the rebels entered our city, which was Bo. We were sleeping very early in the morning, and we heard a gunshot, which was very, very uncommon, because when you hear a gunshot, usually is mainly in the village when the hunters go to hunt for meat and animals and stuff like that. But when you hear a gunshot in the city, then you know this is serious. So we heard a gunshot, and all of a sudden, people start running from everywhere. And there are times people are sleeping, you wake up from sleep. There is no time for you to pack your stuff or for you to even think about taking your belongings. Sometimes some people run out of their house, you know, inappropriately without clothing on because they were sleeping. So I clearly remember that morning leaving our home and just running for our life. At that moment is, you know, safety first. And you will see mothers running away and leaving their children behind, not because they don't love them, because the trauma of just waking up to a heavy gun sound or bombs flying all over your head, you become so disoriented and so traumatized that you don't even know where to start or where to go. So you see moms and dads leaving their children behind, dads leaving their family behind. And I remember one morning when we were running away from the rebels, I saw a woman and her children running together, and she had one on her back she was carrying and another one she was holding in her hands. And then the bullet came and just took up one of the kids, and unfortunately the mother had to keep running. There's no time to mourn, there's no time to go back. She was just crying as she's running with the other child on her back, and ended up moving from that town into the capital city, and the rebels entered there. That was one of the cities in Freetown that we never thought the rebels would ever enter, because that is where the president is living. That's like the capital city of the country. It's like it was impossible. People thought it was impossible for the rebels to come in there, but it surely came in there. And I remember being in my house one evening, and it was just a normal evening. I decided to go take a shower, you know, and I was in the bathroom because the bathrooms were built outside of the house. We didn't have the bathrooms indoors, like, you know, in America. Nowadays, they do have homes that have bathrooms in the house. Even back then, they did have houses that have bathrooms, but we were not fortunate to be in those type of, you know, living environments. So we had to go outside and take a shower. I was in the bathroom and I heard the bullets flying, and I just knew, oh my God, not again. Like again, like we have to go through this again. So I managed to crawl out of that bathroom, ran upstairs. My family and I took off, went down the hill to one of my auntie's house to take refuge. And on our way, I saw one of my classmates who was in the same grade as me had been captured by the rebel, because that was one of the things that they did. They would kidnap and capture the kids and teenagers young from the age of 7 and up, and give them drugs and give them guns, and they will literally kill their friends, their family, their moms, because they are mentally not there, because of the drug has already interfered with their thought process. So I saw one of my classmates with a gun laying in ambush to kill. And I told my mom, I like the lady who was going with me, I almost screamed, and they kind of held my mouth like this, because had I screamed, they would have killed us, because he knew me. And we just kept running, went to that family friend's house. While we were there, again, the rebels entered in that particular neighborhood. While we were in the room, the gunshots started all over. I'm just trying to summarize this because my testimony is long.
Yeah,
The
you're okay.
gunshots started again. I was sleeping, because at this point I hadn't slept for days, because we're just constantly under gunshots. Constantly. You don't even think about food, because every part of your body is numb. In that moment, you're just thinking about survival, whether you're going to die or live. You don't know when you're going to die. And while I was sleeping, just to take some rest, everybody fled the house, and I was the only one left in the house. It was a 2-story building. I was walking into this gun shooting, went out to the living room, realized I was the only one in that living room. But what I didn't know, there was an elderly woman who was also in the guest room, who was bedridden. And there were some guests who had came to that family friend's house to take refuge. They were in the bathroom. I ran in the bathroom to go seek refuge, because normally they would say, go and lay down in the bathtub. They happen to have a bathroom in their home. So with the intention to go in there to lay down in the tub, the bathroom was so packed with people. And there's nowhere for me to stay. And at that time, the house that I was in, the downstairs of it, because it's 3-story building, downstairs was already on fire. The rebels had already put the house on fire. And I can feel the floor warm. It was so warm, my legs, I can't even put my feet on the floor. I remember taking the picture of Christ on the wall. at that time, I had just given my life to Christ as a teenager. I laid the picture on the floor and I started praying, asking the Lord, if you save me out of this fire, I will serve you for the rest of my life. And in that instant, I heard the rebels coming upstairs to the other floor to try to kill whoever in there. And I heard them saying, Operation No Living Thing. If you go in there, anyone you find, kill them. And while they were saying that, I can literally see my death right in front of me. But it did not distract me. I kept praying and asking the Lord, if I survive this, I will give you everything and serve you for the rest of my life. Long story
And
short.
so you were able to write your testimony. You were able
Yes.
to put your words into a book, and it takes us through so many different emotions,
Yes, ma'am.
faith, fear, loss, anger. How do you keep going when everything around you at a point was so uncertain?
Well, again, it's the grace of God, because in that moment, God really kept me calm. And the trauma was there. I'm not going to deny that, because every time I heard the gunshot and the bombing and everything, my heart just kept palpitating. But God kept me calm, even to a point when God helped me to escape the house that was burning. It was all His doing. And I remember when I came to America in 2000, and the following year, 2001, I experienced the 4th of July for the first time in America, and I had no idea what happens on 4th of July. So I was in my living room and I heard fireworks in the park that was right behind the house where I was living. And it traumatized me. I went under the bed and I was sweating. I was crying and I was like, oh my God, the rebels has followed me again to America. Like, if they can come to America of all place, like there's no hiding place for me now. But I came to find out that that's how they do it in America. The fireworks go off on 4th of July. So that trauma was there. But to just make you understand, God has always kept me. And as years went by, I went for counseling. I never went for therapy, but I went for counseling, and with prayer, God just continued to heal me. And I was able to get to a place where I have to learn to forgive the rebels for all the things that they did to not only me, but to family members, killing our friends and families and neighbors. Because there were times while you are running, you're literally jumping over dead bodies, skipping dead bodies to get to safety. And I personally have been shot at multiple times, like the bullet will pass through my left or my right ear, but it would not touch me, all to the glory of God. So I would say the reason why I'm still here and I'm able to write my book many years after this experience is by the grace of God. So that's why I just want to put my story out there for anyone who have been through any type of trauma to take courage and know that that's not the end of it. And there's always going to be a bright light at the end of the tunnel. And whatever you're going through is going to be a testimony for someone else to be encouraged, to be empowered, and to be strengthened.
Well, we want to thank you so much, Finnie, for sharing your story. Again, you can support her by reading her book, How I Survived the Sound of War. And where can we buy that book at, Finnie?
Absolutely. My book is available here on Amazon. You can go on there and order a copy.
Finnie, thank you so much for joining us here on The Breakdown.
Thank you.
And we want to, absolutely, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, folks, if you want to represent the Black Star Network beyond the screen, there's an easy way to do that. Please head to shopblackstarnetwork.com. That's where you can find all the official Black Star Network swag, hoodies, t-shirts, crew necks, and we would love for you to support us wherever you go. Also, when you shop blackstarnetwork.com, you're also supporting a growing collection of Black-owned businesses featured on the site. It's a one-stop shop if you're still looking for a Valentine's gift for the special love in your life. All right, that's going to do it for us today on The Breakdown. We want to thank you for spending part of your day with us. Be sure to keep the conversation going online. We also want to hear from you. Send us your questions, your story ideas, what's happening in your community. Let's connect. Don't forget, we'll be right here tomorrow with more news, context, and more voices that matter. For more news, special coverage, and on-demand content, of course, visit blackstarnetwork.com and check out everything that's happening across the network. I'm Brittany Noble. Follow me online, The Noble Journalist, and we'll see you again.